Welcome back to Crime Documentary Files. Today we'll explore a case that occurred in Suzhou, Jiangsu Province, China. Around 1 a.m. on November 7, 2010, the quiet of the night was shattered by the sirens of two police cars. Half an hour earlier, the Yuexi police station in Suzhou's Wuzhong district had received a report. The caller identified himself as Zhu Jiangtao, saying that around 10:30 p.m. the previous evening, while he and his wife Zhang were walking by the lake in the park, he had gone to use the restroom at a nearby cafe due to stomach pain. When he returned, his wife was nowhere to be found, and her phone was turned off. Upon arriving at the scene, the police immediately deployed search teams. Along with Jiangtao, family members, and friends, they searched every corner of the park. The cold night wind by the lake seemed to carry an ominous feeling, as each passing moment heightened their anxiety. At 1:57 a.m., Zhang Tao and Zhang Lan's cousin discovered an object floating on the water. Everyone's hearts sank. The rescue team was immediately dispatched to the scene. After a few brief minutes, the rescue boat returned to shore. The silent night air was suddenly pierced by Zhang Tao's anguished screams. The floating object was Zhang Lan. Though her body was cold from the water, the strong smell of alcohol emanating from her raised the investigators' suspicions. Despite the medical team's swift efforts to rush her to the hospital, all attempts at resuscitation were too late. Zhang Lan was pronounced dead. After finding the body, police began taking detailed statements from Zhang Tao to understand the events of that fateful night. According to his account, on the evening of November 6th, he had arranged to meet Zhang Lan at a restaurant in the Wangshan area to celebrate their 200-day wedding anniversary. They both drank during dinner. After the meal, they decided to drive to nearby Shihu Park for a walk. However, while walking, Zhang Tao needed to use the restroom, so he stopped at a bathroom, and when he returned, Zhang Lan was gone. In that situation, Zhang Tao's first action was to call Zhang Lan's best friend to ask if she had heard from her. Then, he drove about 20 minutes to Zhang Lan's uncle's house, and the whole family returned to the park to search. Only then, on the way back, did Zhang Tao notify the police. He expressed deep regret, suggesting that if he had called the police sooner, they might have saved Zhang Lan from drowning. To verify Zhang Tao's statement, police checked security cameras. The surveillance system at the West Coast Cafe in the park had captured footage of Zhang Tao entering around 10:50 p.m. He stayed for about 15 minutes, then came out and stood in front of the entrance for a while before leaving. During the investigation, detectives were troubled by a question. Could an intoxicated person suddenly fall into the lake without any warning signs? Although the lakeside area had no protective railings, was Zhang Lan's death really just an accident? To clarify more details, police met with Zhang Lan's best friend. When informed about Zhang Lan's heavy drinking before her death, this friend was extremely surprised. She revealed that Zhang Lan was preparing to get pregnant and was extremely careful about what she consumed, not only avoiding alcohol, but even stopping the use of car air fresheners. It seemed peculiar that someone so cautious would drink heavily on that fateful night. With increasingly suspicious details emerging, investigators began to focus on a primary direction for their investigation. On November 8th, they visited Zhang Lan's home. While grief enveloped the house and her elderly grandparents struggled to accept their granddaughter's sudden death, family members were busy with funeral arrangements. Strangely, Zhang Tao was nowhere to be seen. When asked, they learned he had gone out to eat and messaged that he wouldn't return afterward. Zhang Lan's grandfather expressed his displeasure, noting that Zhang Tao hadn't shed a single tear and kept yawning continuously. Under normal circumstances, when someone loses a loved one, especially a newlywed wife, that kind of emotional collapse is hard to fake. Most people would be sobbing uncontrollably, sometimes unable to stand from the shock. This is human instinct, the helplessness and devastation when facing an irreversible loss. However, Zhang Tao showed police a completely different image. Compared to the extreme grief of other family members, his calmness stood out unnaturally, even eerily so. What struck the police as particularly strange was how Zhang Tao's behavior didn't align with the logic of a concerned husband. After his wife went missing, instead of immediately calling the police, he called her best friend and even drove 20 minutes to her uncle's house, wasting precious search time. Despite having a phone right beside him, it seemed the most direct option, calling the police, never crossed his mind. His explanation was, "I was too panicked. My mind went blank." The police didn't buy it. Such aimless action seemed more like deliberately stalling for time to cover something up. All of these factors made the police suspicious of his coldness. How could someone who lost their beloved wife behave so indifferently? Was it because he didn't love her, or because he already knew she would be gone? As the investigation deepened, police received even more shocking news. Zhang Tao had a lover. This discovery was like a time bomb, completely removing the case from the realm of accidents. Police began to speculate. Could he have killed his newlywed wife for his lover? On November 9th, 2010, police brought in both Zhang Tao and his lover, Zhu Lijun, for questioning under the pretext of assisting with the investigation. Initially, they both appeared frightened, but when asked about any connection to Zhang Lan's death, they both denied involvement. Then, the police devised a strategy. They informed Zhang Tao that they would immediately conduct an autopsy on Zhang Lan's body. Surprisingly, right after receiving this news, Zhang Tao quickly confessed to the crime. His lover, Li Jun, when faced with irrefutable evidence, also revealed the entire incident. According to Zhang Tao's confession, he and Li Jun had carefully surveyed and chosen the central lake of Shihu Park, which was over 6 feet deep, as their murder location. On that fateful evening, Zhang Tao took Zhang Lan out for dinner and deliberately ordered multiple bottles of wine under the pretense of celebration. Although Zhang Lan repeatedly declined, she couldn't refuse her husband's requests on their 200-day wedding anniversary. During their conversation, they both drank considerably without realizing it. However, the frightening truth was that Zhang Tao had secretly laced the wine bottles with sedatives beforehand. As a result, Zhang Lan quickly became drowsy after drinking. Meanwhile, Li Jun had been waiting at Shihu Park for a long time, ready for their dark plan. When the park was nearly empty around 10 p.m., Li Jun texted Zhang Tao that they could begin executing their plan. Zhang Tao helped Zhang Lan leave the restaurant and drove her to the park. By this time, although Zhang Lan was somewhat more alert, the sedatives had left her body weak and powerless. Zhang Tao suggested they walk in the park to sober up. They stopped at a bridge without safety railings, surrounded by dim lighting. Li Jun was hidden in the darkness nearby, a position they had planned in advance. Zhang Tao let Zhang Lan walk ahead, and in a moment when she wasn't paying attention, he forcefully pushed her into the lake. Zhang Lan immediately struggled in the cold water, trying to cry for help with a weak voice. Zhang Tao cruelly turned away as he watched his wife's eyes change from pleading to despair. He stood there until the lake surface returned to its undisturbed state. To ensure Zhang Lan had no chance of being rescued, Zhang Tao and Li Jun waited an additional 20 minutes at the scene before leaving. According to their plan, Zhang Tao needed to establish an alibi. So at 10:15 p.m., he deliberately visited the nearby cafe under the pretense of using the restroom to be captured on camera. He then fabricated the story that Zhang Lan disappeared after this time, when in reality, she had already drowned. When the police arrived at the scene, Zhang Tao joined Zhang Lan's cousin in the search. He deliberately led his cousin closer to the area where Zhang Lan drowned and cleverly hinted at the floating object on the lake's surface. When Zhang Tao was arrested, both colleagues and friends were extremely shocked, as he had always been seen as someone with admirable social conduct. In fact, Zhang Tao came from a powerful local family. His father had previously held the position of deputy director of the security bureau in Suzhou's Wuzhong district. More notably, his grandfather was Zhu Tianxiao, a prominent figure who served as the chairman of the board of the Wuzhong Group in Jiangsu. The Wuzhong Group was a major listed corporation with 330 subsidiary companies, ranking among Suzhou's top 100 private enterprises. By 2020, the group's revenue had exceeded 20 billion yuan, about $3 billion. Beyond his role as a businessman, Zhang Tao's grandfather had also served as the director of the Education Bureau in Wuzhong District, making him a figure of both wealth and power. Everyone knew that Zhu Tianxiao had only one daughter, so he particularly doted on his grandson Jiang Tao, loving him like his own son. Right after graduating from university, Jiang Tao was arranged to work at a bank. Soon after, he was promoted to credit department director with an annual salary of approximately 250,000 yuan, about $35,000, owning both a house and a car, wanting for nothing. In his work life, Zhu Jiangtao was kind, polite, and successful in his career. He didn't fit the stereotype of a second-generation rich person. He graduated from the computer science department of a prestigious 211 university in Nanjing and then switched careers to work at the East Bank. The marriage between Jiang Tao and Zhang Lan appears admirable to outsiders. Zhang Lan's father holds the position of deputy district chief of Wuzhong district, while her mother was the head of employment management at the Labor Bureau. Zhang Lan herself worked at the Employment Guidance Center of the Wuzhong District Human Resources and Social Security Bureau, becoming a deputy director at just 25 years old, with seemingly unlimited prospects. According to their friends, this young couple always gave others the feeling of loving each other. Especially Zhang Lan had a gentle personality and always spoke softly. Therefore, after listening to Jiang Tao tell the details of the crime, the police still had one thing they did not understand. Jiang Tao and Zhang Lan got married on May 2, 2010, when the murder happened. Their marriage had only lasted 6 months. Even if Jiang Tao had an affair, wouldn't a divorce be enough? Why did he have to take such a big risk to choose to kill someone? What kind of ties were there between him and his lover Li Jun? The deeper the investigation, the more mysteries were revealed, like ripples on the surface of a lake, and the story behind this accident seemed to be even deeper and colder than the lake water that night. Jiang Tao's cold appearance was just a mask covering the truth, and everyone was waiting for these secrets to surface. The relationship between Jiang Tao and Li Jun began in 2006. At that time, Jiang Tao was 23 years old and met Li Jun through a classmate. At that time, Jiang Tao was studying at a prestigious university in Nanjing, while Li Jun studied at a nearby college. After a few meetings, they discovered a special connection. Li Jun's gentle beauty made Jiang Tao fall in love with her from the very beginning. After just a few months, they officially started dating and grew to understand each other deeply. Li Jun's life hadn't been easy. Her parents divorced when she was in middle school, and she lived with her mother. Unfortunately, her mother suffered from severe rheumatoid arthritis, couldn't work, and her condition progressively worsened until she could barely walk. The family burden fell on Li Jun's young shoulders. Because she had to spend so much time caring for her mother, she couldn't focus on her studies and only managed to get into a community college. Coming from a wealthy family, Jiang Tao developed strong protective feelings toward Li Jun. People initially thought this was just a passing phase for Jiang Tao, as during his university years, he was known for frequently changing girlfriends, mostly dating girls from well-off families with striking appearances. However, after meeting Li Jun, Jiang Tao changed completely, becoming faithful and even brought her home to meet his parents. Those who knew Li Jun revealed that while she appeared gentle on the outside, she had a free spirit and knew how to keep men interested, which made Jiang Tao infatuated with her. However, when Jiang Tao's parents learned about Li Jun's situation, they firmly opposed the relationship. This led to constant quarrels between Jiang Tao and his family. Over time, under pressure from his parents, Jiang Tao was forced to distance himself from Li Jun from time to time. But the remarkable thing about Li Jun was that she never clung or pursued him, but always chose to gently back down. This made Jiang Tao even more unable to break up, and he always found a way to get back together with her. During this relationship, Li Jun had 3 abortions because of Jiang Tao. This sense of guilt and affection made Jiang Tao unable to leave her. Despite her parents' constant intervention, the two still did not break up. Jiang Tao even helped her move from the residential area to work at the bank where he worked. The feelings between the two were very close at one time. However, in 2008, Jiang Tao's parents began to try to change the situation through matchmaking. They carefully selected Zhang Lan as their matchmaking partner. Zhang Lan was the daughter of the deputy director of Wuzhong County, gentle in character, excellent in education, graduated from 211 University, and later studied for a master's degree. Although she came from a wealthy family, she lived simply. Her family bought a car but still insisted on cycling to work. Zhang Tao's parents were very satisfied with Zhang Lan, hoping to match their son with her through this strong marriage. At first, Zhang Tao did not like Zhang Lan, feeling that she was introverted and did not get along well, so he told his parents that the two of them were not compatible. However, his parents promised that as long as he was with Zhang Lan, they would give him a luxury car. This proposal moved Zhang Tao. He always dreamed of starting a business, feeling that if the two families got married, their future career would be more secure. After the last breakup with Li Jun, Zhang Tao did not return to her, but instead turned to pursue Zhang Lan. Zhang Lan, raised in a strict family since childhood, had almost never experienced love. On the contrary, Zhang Tao was experienced in love, having dated at least 10 different girls. For an experienced person like Zhang Tao, conquering an innocent girl like Zhang Lan was not difficult. As for Zhang Lan, when faced with a handsome and charismatic guy like Zhang Tao, she was quickly moved. Their relationship progressed rapidly, and they soon started dating. In 2009, an incident occurred when Zhang Tao's father was demoted from the position of Deputy Director of the Security Bureau to Deputy Specialist. Although the specific reason for the demotion was not made public, the Zhu family felt that it was necessary to speed up the marriage between Zhang Tao and Zhang Lan to strengthen the alliance between the two families. However, Zhang Lan's parents did not care about this. They completely respected their daughter's choice. Zhang Lan herself had already determined that Zhang Tao was the man she wanted to be with for the rest of her life. Therefore, the wedding plan was quickly implemented. When Li Jun heard this news, she could not keep calm. Although on the surface, she told Zhang Tao that she did not want to see him again and would go on a long trip. In fact, this was just a take one step back, take two steps forward tactic, hoping that Zhang Tao would come back to find her like before. However, this time things were different. Zhang Tao had no intention of turning back. The wedding of Zhang Tao and Zhang Lan took place as planned on May 2nd, 2010. It was an extremely grand and romantic ceremony. The Zhu family prepared a villa as a wedding gift for the newlyweds, while Zhang Lan's father gave them a car. After the ceremony, the couple had a romantic honeymoon abroad, seemingly starting their married life on a perfect note. However, this happy beginning became Li Jun's greatest pain. Watching the man she loved deeply embrace a new life, her resentment and suffering boiled over. And what's more puzzling is why Zhang Tao, in what appeared to be a perfect marriage, ultimately developed murderous intentions. After the honeymoon, Zhang Tao and Zhang Lan's life quickly settled into routine. The daily commute between work and home, the mechanical lifestyle made Zhang Tao feel suffocated. Even on weekends, Zhang Lan would only take him to her parents' house for meals. Zhang Lan's mother would always prepare a table full of delicious dishes to treat her son-in-law just as before. For Zhang Lan and her family, such simple family joys were the beauty of marriage. But for Zhang Tao, this mundane life became unbearably dull. He began to uncontrollably reminisce about his passionate days with Li Jun, especially when he saw the photos Li Jun posted on social media. Her charming smile and carefully groomed appearance made him unable to restrain himself and finally couldn't help but come to her. This visit was like a fire burning on a pile of dry wood. The two rekindled their old love, even more passionate than before. At first, they still kept it a little secret, only meeting each other occasionally. But very quickly, this fire of adultery flared up to the point that Zhang Tao couldn't control himself. He started not coming home overnight and became increasingly cold towards Zhang Lan. Zhang Lan wasn't someone who liked to argue. She just gently asked him if he was hiding something. Zhang Tao naturally didn't admit it. He just made up excuses about being busy with work, and even used it as an excuse to leave early and come home late. But the truth was hard to hide in the end. Late at night, Zhang Tao returned home drunk, with a strange perfume on his body. With her motherly sensitivity, Zhang Lan's mother quickly noticed her daughter's unstable mood and kindly asked if the young couple was having any problems. When Zhang Lan couldn't help but sigh a few words unexpectedly, Her mother advised her daughter to be more sympathetic to her husband, explaining that this was the stage where his career was developing and social gatherings were inevitable. With her naturally sensitive mind, Zhang did not completely agree with her mother's advice and began to pay closer attention to Jiang Tao's expressions. Meanwhile, Jiang Tao's life became more and more indulgent. He skillfully maintained the appearance of a happy marriage, appeasing his parents, but in reality, he was uncontrollably immersed in his relationship with Li Jun. He thought he could skillfully handle both relationships, but reality proved that when this delicate balance was broken, it would lead to an irreparable tragedy. Li Jun was not someone who would accept the status quo. She was increasingly unable to bear this kind of relationship, having to share her husband with another woman. Moreover, she always felt that she had sacrificed too much for Jiang Tao. She had had 3 abortions, a relationship without a name, and the anger of having to live in the dark for a long time. These thoughts made Li Jun restless and extreme. She began to call and text Jiang Tao regardless of time, harassing him day and night. When he went to work, he could still deal with it, but when he returned home, the phone kept ringing. Even a stupid wife would realize something. Zhang finally began to suspect. She tried to check Jiang Tao's phone and found ambiguous messages between him and Li Jun. This extramarital affair was completely exposed. Zhang was furious, and for the first time, she argued loudly with Jiang Tao, shouting and questioning him. Her composure completely collapsed, tears streaming down her face, full of disappointment. No matter how Jiang Tao explained, how hard he tried to beg, she no longer believed him. That night, Zhang coldly said 2 words to Jiang Tao: divorce. When he heard these 2 words, divorce, Jiang Tao's mind was filled with confusion. But what he thought about was not his wife's pain and sadness, but his own dignity. He was worried about how outsiders would talk about his affair, afraid that his parents would be ashamed of his scandal, and even more afraid that his grandfather would be disappointed in this matter. He did not want to bear this heavy price. So an extreme and vicious thought arose to make Zhang completely disappear from this world. He tried to probe this intention with Li Jun. Unexpectedly, Li Jun not only did not hesitate, but also calmly expressed his willingness to help. Since October 2010, the couple had plotted many times how to kill Zhang Lan. They had considered many options such as falling from a height, poisoning her food, and staging a car accident. But they were all discarded because the risk was too high and she was easily discovered. At this moment, Jiang Tao remembered that Zhang Lan could not swim. Therefore, he proposed a plan to push Zhang Lan into the lake when she was unconscious, thereby creating the appearance of an accidental drowning. Li Jun not only did not hesitate at all, but also completely agreed to this plan. So the 2 of them began to carefully choose the location of the crime, finally targeting Shihu Park in Wuzhong district. To ensure that the plan was flawless, they surveyed it many times and frequently rehearsed every detail. Just as they were about to act, Zhang Lan once again mentioned the divorce and prepared to tell both families everything. But Jiang Tao did not stop. He pretended to beg Zhang Lan for another chance, promising to completely cut off ties with Li Jun within a week. But this was just a delaying tactic to continue pushing forward with his plan. Although Jiang Tao had some hesitation before taking action, he quickly extinguished the remaining weak conscience. In his eyes, divorce would bring countless troubles, and Zhang Lan's sudden death was the cleanest solution. Until November 6th, Jiang Tao used the excuse of celebrating the 200th wedding anniversary to invite Zhang Lan to dinner, in fact, to pave the way for the final step of the plan. During the meal, he pretended to repent, admitting his mistakes while trying to keep the marriage. Zhang Lan was filled with conflict because of her first love and reluctance to give up on the future. Coupled with Jiang Tao's constant persuasion, she gradually softened her heart. Under the influence of each glass of wine, Zhang Lan completely did not realize that this warm dinner was the last dinner of her life. Late at night, Jiang Tao met Li Jun and carried out the heinous crime as planned. Facing Zhang Lan's desperate struggles and cries for help in the cold lake, his coldness and Li Jun's cruelty did not waver. At this moment, their inhumanity had completely swallowed them. Zhang Lan's eyes were filled with hope for survival, but gradually faded away, until death still questioning his ruthlessness. But Zhang Tao had completely abandoned humanity, leaving only a heart that was corroded to the core by desire and selfishness. On January 13th, 2011, the Suzhou People's Procuratorate indicted Zhang Tao and Li Jun for premeditated murder. On January 28th, the case was publicly tried at the Suzhou Intermediate People's Court, attracting widely public attention. During the trial, Zhang Tao and Li Jun completely abandoned their former feelings for each other, only concerned with shifting blame. Zhang Tao admitted to pushing Zhang Lan into the water, but claimed he did so under Li Jun's direction, accusing her of using pregnancy to blackmail him. Li Jun maintains that all plans were Zhang Tao's doing, and she was only a passive participant. On February 22, 2011, the court delivered its initial verdict. Both Zhu Jiangtao and Zhu Lijun were found guilty of premeditated murder and considered principal offenders. Jiang Tao was sentenced to death for masterminding the murder, while Li Jun received a life sentence for her role as an accomplice. However, both appealed to the verdict. During the appeal, Zhu Jiangtao's defense attorney tried to use the excuse of surrender and the method of killing not being cruel enough to request a reduced sentence, but was rejected by the court. On September 23, 2011, the Jiangsu Provincial High Court has decided to uphold the original sentence. This case has caused a huge stir in society and has led to many rumors. Some people speculate that Jiang Tao is trying to use his connections to get a reduced sentence. Others spread information that he was deliberately faking mental illness to get out on bail for treatment. However, all these rumors could not shake justice. On April 27, 2012, with a single gunshot, Zhu Jiangtao paid for his crimes with his life. This sentence not only brought solace to Zhang Lan's soul, but also served as a powerful testament to the fairness of the law. This case deeply resonates with the fragility of life and the complexity of marriage. May Zhang Lan's story serves as a profound lesson about marriage, family, and life choices, hoping that similar tragedies will not recur in the future. So in your opinion, is compatibility and family background more important, or is genuine love more important in marriage? Share your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching and see you in the next videos.